In today's world of $4,000 camp counselors, camps need to do everything possible to be efficient in how we staff our summer programs. We discuss this topic and more with Thomas Coffey from Southampton Day Camp and the one and only Matt Kaufman from Camp Ramaquois. This topic transcends all camps, especially Sam's municipal program where it's all about efficiencies. So kick back and enjoy it. This is the Day Camp Pod. Welcome back to the Day Camp Podcast. I'm Andy Pritikin, Director of Liberty Lake in the Philly suburbs of New Jersey.
I'm Sam Thompson from Crystal Lake Park District, Crystal Lake, Illinois.
And we are joined today by two awesome camp pros from the Northeast. That's right. ACA New York, New Jersey representing today. We got Tom Coffey from Southampton Camp and Club. And we got Matt Kaufman, who was like a regular the first season. And now he's back. I'm really psyched. We love hearing about the awesome stuff that goes on at Ramaquois. So I guess first off, Tom, introduce everybody to yourself. How did you get to be sitting in the chair in Southampton?
Thanks, Andy. So Thomas Coffey. My first summer in the States was 2006. I was hired by Timberlake West to be their soccer specialist, part of the TLC family of camps, Timberlake, Tyler Hill. So from 2006 through 2012, I worked at Timberlake West in the Catskill Mountains with Jen Spagner, Bob and Alice Rosenberg, later Justin Mayer. I was a soccer specialist, athletic director, division leader, and I bugged Jay Jacobs ever since my first summer at camp for a job. And one weekend we got rained out. Our training sessions got rained out because there was a storm. And I opportunistically emailed Jay and said, look, I've got the weekend off. I'd love to come up and chat to you. And I remember it very well. It was Teddy Kennedy's funeral. I think it was 2009. So I drove all the way up to Timberlake. It's pouring with rain. And we sit in the Ponderosa, so Jay's cabin, which is a mansion. It's twice the size of my current house now. The fire is roaring, and we just chatted everything camp. And then within the next couple of months, I was still the lower camp boys head counselor at Timberlake West at the time. I came over in the spring for a reunion, and all of a sudden, when I landed, I had an email from him saying, "Come into the office on Monday before you fly home. Let's do this. Let's have an interview." And the rest is history. I didn't really find out I was working at day camp until my visa was approved and I came over in sort of May 2013. But I love day camp. I would never go back to sleepaway camp. Not anymore, never.
What do they have anything even close to day camp? Like, I'm not talking about soccer camp, things like that. Do they have anything close to traditional day camp in the UK?
Look, I've been here for nearly 12 years now. Nothing to my recollection. Mm-hmm. They may have developed some things now. I know there are a couple of US style camps, particularly in the south of England and in Scotland, but not that I am.
Yeah, I don't know about them. And we have a guy from Germany working for us right now who says there's nothing like that either, and he doesn't think there's anything really in Europe. I've been to the international camp group thing a couple times, and I know that there's stuff in Russia and there's stuff in Australia, like of course Canada, but yeah, that it's really sort of few and far between in Europe. I think that's really interesting. So Tom and I were chatting about having a social worker at camp, and he found one, so congrats to you on that. And then we started talking about our health center and how we figure that out, and then he thought it would be a great idea to do a podcast about staff efficiencies. So my little just sort of framing of this is that I started a camp from scratch, and when you have no money and you're starting a camp, you have to just give double duty to everybody, right? Now Sam's sitting here in a little box on Zoom here, and she's like, "I run a municipal program. We got to do this every day." All right. This is her life. Budget. This is her life, right? It's about double duty and stuff. And sometimes I talk to my friends, my colleagues, and Tom runs, it's not a very big camp, but it's an affluent camp out there in the Hamptons, and Matt's at Ramaquois, which is one of the top camps around, and it's giant and it's expensive place. So there is a lot of money, that people are paying for tuition, so we can afford staff. But at the same time, Staff is our biggest budget line. And I hear many of our colleagues tell me how many staff they have and how many kids per day they have. And I'm just like, my goodness, that seems like way too many staff. Like, why do you need that many staff? And from someone that's grown a camp from scratch, I know, I've seen that when you keep adding staff, sometimes like there's a breaking point where you have too many and then people just stand around. And then you sort of, it's like a breaking point, right? And I also know that we hire a lot of camp people, like the four of us, who are like go-getters, who want more jobs, who want to do double duty, who want to push ourselves. And like, why not do that, right? And if you can get player A to take on, 40% of what player B would do, then you don't even need player B necessarily, and there's a lot of thinking like that that I have. And again, like if a lot of camps think they're being super efficient and like, well, I have this gymnastics area, so I need to hire like 12 people for gymnastics, or like I remember visiting a day camp that had 100 lifeguards, 100 lifeguards. Like they did not have 5,000 kids at this camp, right? So to me, to merit 100 lifeguards, this is like, and that's the first place I want to start with this is that when I first started, lifeguards were the most expensive staff. They were the hardest to get. And why did we need so many? Oh yeah, because of swim lessons. So wait, you have 100 lifeguards because you have swim lessons. Do you have swim lessons all day? No, we just have them in the morning. So what do these 100 lifeguards do all afternoon? Oh, they have it easy. And I'm paying them in an inordinate amount of money, right? So what I started doing immediately was training up my regular staff, my frontline staff, my counselors, my group leaders, to be able to teach swim. So in my orientation schedule, I have 2 days of swim instructor training. And like, hey, during the pandemic, everybody had to be a swim instructor. We couldn't break the groups up and all that kind of thing. But I'm talking about regular season. I would pay them extra to do this. And so they're making extra money, they get extra responsibility, and they get more time with the kids. And it's a huge, huge saver of money for me. When I think about the amount of kids I have each day and the amount of lifeguards I have, it seems like I'm really getting away with murder in some ways. And yeah, so that's how I sort of started this idea. I'm going to toss it to you first, Mr. Kaufman. You could reintroduce yourself to everybody because it's been a few years.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a while. I'm glad to be back. Missed you guys. Thought you forgot about me.
Not at all.
Uh,
Not at all.
so, yeah, my name is Matt Kaufman. I'm one of the directors here at Camp Ramaquois, which is, like you said, Andy, one of the larger camps around. We serve Manhattan and the surrounding suburbs. And I started here as a camper when I was 4 years old, and I never left. I was a camper for 11 years, a counselor for 7 years, division leader for 5 years, and at some point they asked me to work year round, and I decided that I would do that. So here I am, and I always think it's very interesting to hear people's camp origin stories because they're so unique and also different.
Yeah,
But it
and
usually,
I love Thomas's, and because I particularly love the origin stories of the camp professionals who originally came over from overseas. They're always amazing stories because a lot of them also usually start with, this girl that I was really trying to hook up with had me go to like this college job fair where I talked to this like, this sweet talking guy from New York, who got me to come over. I love those parts. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
so yeah, so I've never left. This will be my 40th summer here at Ramaquois.
What?
Yeah.
How does that work? Started
Um,
before you were in the womb? Jeepers.
I don't know. Like you were saying before we came on the air, the time goes quickly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like I've been here for all these years, but I have. And we have a very special camp. We have just generations coming back year after year, and a lot of second generation, third generation campers. So it's a very special thing. And I'm glad you asked me on for this topic because staff is something that we're very passionate about. You don't have a camp if you don't have great staff, and we have approximately a little over 550 staff during the summer. So We do our best to manage them, to make each staff feel like they're unique and important, which is hard to do with that number. And we also try to get the best out of them. So this is definitely a topic that's near and dear to all of us here.
Yeah, and more important now than ever because of what we are paying our staff now. So, just, to recount the situation is that there is a federal there is a federal rule that camps don't have to pay minimum wage. It's an exemption for summer camps, except in my great state of New Jersey, in Nevada and South Dakota, where they've jumped in front of that. And in New Jersey, we have our 18 and overs do have to get paid minimum wage. But even in these two guys are in New York and Sam's in Illinois. If you want to get good people, if they're going to work at Burger King for whatever it is, $15 an hour or something, then even camps that don't have to pay minimum wage are paying more and more. So Tom's and Matt, are you finding that you're paying your staff a lot more since the pandemic, at least?
Yeah, we like you said, we in New York, we're not required to pay minimum wage to anyone who's working directly with campers, but we are competing against minimum wage, and minimum wage here right now is $15 per hour, going up in the next couple of years. I think all the way up to 17 is what it's scheduled to do. So we used to pay very little, and in the past, I would say since COVID, we've probably doubled our staff salaries for the average high school age, college age
Yeah, no, same here
counselor.
too.
And when you add in the total compensation package, you throw in, lunch, snacks, transportation, things like that, you put it all together, we're close to minimum wage, although probably not quite there yet. But for us, it was a big increase, and it was a huge investment, but it was a necessary investment.
Yeah, well, when you have to hire 550 people, sure as heck is. And then Tom, out there in the Hamptons, I mean, I was talking to Dave Skolnick about, how hard it is to get people out there to work, period.
Yeah,
I could only imagine what you're
we're in a
paying.
very unique position. Similar to Matt, we're in New York, so we are exempt from minimum wage for those staff that work directly with kids. I think since the pandemic or a couple of years before, we really sort of altered our model. We now probably house close to 50% of our staff in and around the Hamptons, whether it be on our campsite. We're a little bit of a unique situation. We're a sort of a sleepaway day camp hybrid. We have sleepaway cabins on our property, so we utilize those for staff housing. We also rent some houses in the Hamptons. To try and set ourselves apart from other camps, we do hire a lot of international staff and fill those beds with internationals. We find that is a great selling point for our campers. They love the Irish staff, they love the English, the Irish, the Welsh, Scots. So that's huge. We also have a slightly longer season than probably you three. We go, the end of June, soon as school finishes, or this year actually before school finishes. But we go right through up until Labor Day. So we actually have a 10-week day camp season. So that provides us with staffing challenges with Americans. So that's another reason why we factor in the international staff. So anybody that we house really has to guarantee us 10 weeks. And we get that from the UK and Ireland. But we really have three sort of groups of staff. We have our international staff that we house. We have our local staff that live in the Hamptons year round, which I'll be honest is a very, very small pool of staff. It feels like it shrinks year after year. We tend to find that those local staff in the Hamptons either want nothing to do with the summer people that sort of invade the Hamptons during the summer, or they want to maximize their return from working with them. And obviously working in the Hamptons, cash in hand with very wealthy people, you can make a lot of money, which obviously doesn't correspond to working with a camp. Our third and probably our second biggest pool of staff really is what we call our transplant staff. So we rely on staff that move from Florida, New York, Manhattan, that have houses in the Hamptons, whether it be grandparents, parents, friends, family. We rely on them to really staff camp. And I guess if I'm being honest here, you know, we can't staff camp without them, because we need those transplant staff. They, for the most part, come from a wealthy background, so they don't necessarily look at the paycheck. But while we also can't staff camp without them, we sometimes can't staff with them, because a lot of the time, you know, if they want to go and play golf, they'll go and play golf. If they have friends coming to stay over at their house on a Sunday night, they'll go to the beach on a Monday, and they just won't turn
Oh
up to
God,
work. So
we do not envy you.
it
That
becomes
is
a
rough.
catch-22.
Yeah,
It really does become a catch-22.
that is rough. So Sam, how much have you guys in the municipal land raised your salaries since the pandemic?
I I was very lucky because my administration realized that we've got a Y in town that's very competitive. And really, we're in the middle of probably 5 communities that you cross a road, you're in the next town. And they all have park district camps and other camps. So when I believe Illinois is at 14 something, but 3 years ago when they announced they were going up every year, we jumped to the 15 and we're able to hold on to staff that way. Um, Plus word of mouth, happy staff bring happy more staff. Um, so we've managed to stay competitive that way. I only have about 100 staff, which is small for you guys.
No, not for Tom. Tom, how many staff do you guys have at Southampton?
Probably 200 in total.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
200 in total.
Yeah. And I have before and after camp staff that are completely separate from my camp staff. Camp staff are 8:30 to 4. The others are on the other end, which I know some at least park districts are doing it 6 to noon, noon to 6 kind of thing to cover their extended camp. But I do before and after school during the school year, and I have a lot of older ladies or people that are not real active, that are not fit for camp, but they're really good at before and after camp when the kids are coming in slowly and are tired, and so they fit that niche really well.
Well, that is a great little secret right there to do. I know there's a retirement village across the street from my camp, and I'm always trying to figure out how to utilize those folks, because there are some people that do want to work, but of course, working, 7.5 hours in extreme heat is not necessarily the thing.
And face it, they're up at 6 in the morning
Yeah.
looking for something to do.
So Sam, at a municipal camp, which is similar to a lot of Ys and such, right? You have to always be thinking about the bottom line, when it comes to these things. So is your model that your groups of kids with their staff, that the staff in those groups are running a lot of the activities?
Exactly. They're jacks of all trades. They have to be doing the canoeing, the archery. There's no specialists. So they're doing every activity, the art, everything with their group. Now they work it out and swap out, like if one guy's going on a hike and 3 of his kids don't want to go on the hike, they want to do art, and he hates doing art, he'll pair up with a counselor who's really good with that, and they'll swap for that activity.
So does that mean that during your trainings that you have to train a lot of people on the ropes course, on archery, on boating and
Yes.
things like that? Because you
Being
need that flexibility.
Right. And being accredited, we have to have our skill verification forms for every person
Mhm.
for archery. And
Yeah.
so
No, it
we
makes
train
sense.
on all of it.
Yeah, I hired a guy this year who worked at a very small sleepaway camp, like less than 100 kids sleepaway camp, and every single person was ropes trained,
Yeah.
and a lifeguard, right? So they had that kind of flexibility.
Which that brings me, our beach staff are a separate they're our organization, but a separate department. However, we have to provide our counselors in with the instructor for all the groups. So they're crowd control for every swim lesson group. So all of my camp counselors are in the water every morning,
Mhm.
helping with swim lessons and then doing free swim and canoeing.
Got it. So how about Thomas and Matt? How do you guys handle instructional swim? Are there any double duties going on around there for you guys?
No. So we are one of those camps that hires an excessive amount of lifeguards. Last year we hired over 90 between our 9 pools and lake. And that just happens to be one of our main selling points. We're very proud of our swim program, and we tell parents that if you trust your children with us, that we'll teach them how to swim, and we take that promise pretty seriously. Our lifeguards are our swim instructors, and our group counselors are there to assist, help with any behavioral issues, help with maybe if there's a specific camper that has a fear, that counselor might be able to better handle that than a lifeguard. But the lifeguards do the swim instruction lessons, and when we go to our different areas, similarly, ropes course, archery, our counselors are really concentrating on the group dynamics, fostering those friendships, whereas the skills are being taught by the specialist at that area. So we do have that luxury where we don't take that for granted. We're very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah. Now, if you go back into the archives of the Day Camp Pod, we do a podcast on the media teams, the social media and stuff like that, and that was one of the best things, Matt talking about their media team, which is it's like a little small army of video and photographers and all that kind of stuff. It really is.
We're up
I mean,
to 11 now. We have
well,
11.
I mean, look, like you said, you're able to do it, to the best of your abilities, right? So that is wonderful.
We were excited this year because we finally got our own Facebook page, because it was a Crystal Lake Park District page in which we were one little click. And now we actually have our own camp page for the first time ever.
This is like worlds colliding here.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I was talking about with Tom was the medical center. We recently hooked up with a local college that has a nursing program, and are able to, because our head nurse is also a college professor nurse, we're able to give nursing students time that they need, of actual hands-on time to fulfill their requirements. And being that, we all know that 95% of the camp health center is ice packs and Band-Aids. You don't need RNs to necessarily do that, or EMTs or such. So that to me seems like an area that you can bulk up with people who are, similarly trained, right? I mean, even lifeguards, when we have a lot of lifeguards, sometimes we rotate them down because they're all first aid trained. So that's another area that I think about. And in regards to group leaders, the actual hands-on counselors teaching things. I mean, I understand where Matt's coming from and the level of quality and stuff, but a lot of camps, can't hire that many teachers to be running things, and really need to be figuring out the double duty. And I try really hard when I find someone, like a college student that's on the basketball team or something like that, to have them trained up to be able to do other things. Now, it might not be something like archery or boating where they do have to have be specifically trained and stuff like that. But a lot of the the sort of minimally equipment used kind of sport kind of things and art kind of things and lanyard and stuff like that. It helps me minimize my amount of specialists, which really helps my bottom line. All right, so what, Matt, tell us a little bit about this program you were talking about with your job thing, which I thought was really interesting.
I probably like all of you and all day camps out there, there are things that happen that are not under anyone's real job description. We have our buses roll in the morning, and like many camps, our facility was never designed to have 90 yellow school buses roll in and turn around. So we have to have people out there turning these buses around. We have to have people making sure that the kids get off the buses properly. Don't forget any bags on the buses. So we have all of these little things that are similar to like duties, like teachers have duties in school. We call them joblets. And sometimes we pay extra, sometimes we don't. But just when our staff are arriving between 8 and 8:30, someone has to park those cars. We park the cars like sardines. We don't have the luxury of a parking lot. I don't think many day camps do. So we have 4 parking attendants. We call them joblets. The people who are guiding the buses. We have people called bus leaders who supervise a set of bus counselors, and they're really on duty from about 8:15 to 9 o'clock in the morning. They're texting their bus counselors, getting a lot of information. We consider that a joblet. And we have certain people, on Fridays, we get a lot of parent pickups, so we need additional help down at our pickup area. So there are some people that we know Fridays at around 3:15, they can stop what they're doing. They're really not working at their area anymore, so we send them down there. So for many years, this all sort of happened informally. We had, just people that like, oh, I'll do the parking or I'll help turn the buses around. And we started formalizing this probably 5 to 10 years ago, making actual job descriptions for these things. And we actually are moving towards a model where we have one person who's the supervisor for all of these joblets, because there's probably 50 or 60 of them going on, and it's becoming a big deal.
Is that a full-time job, the joblet supervisor?
The joblet supervisor is going to be a full-time staff member, but he will have many other responsibilities, like
I
we
gotcha.
all do.
I got a quick question about
Yep.
the people working in the parking lot that you said are texting the buses. What are they texting? Like what's happening there?
So we call them bus leaders, and they're adults. They're typically specialty counselors working at, let's say, arts and crafts or basketball or something like that. And they're in contact with our bus counselors, who are typically on the younger side in high school or college, and they're making sure that everything's going okay on the buses. Those counselors have a lot of questions. A camper's not feeling well. Can a nurse be ready to receive this child? Or we're behind a garbage truck in Manhattan and we're going to be 25 minutes late, which happens every single day. So things like that. Because when you have so many of these people, you really have to be very efficient with how you communicate with them. Otherwise, you get 30 messages coming into the same person, and that person can't handle any of those 30 messages effectively.
It's super smart, Matt, because I think what most camps, the people on the buses are texting like the one transportation coordinator in the office.
Yeah,
Right.
and we had
Who's on
that
the
for a
phone with a
while.
parent right now.
Right, and that person was going to go crazy. I mean, he was just going to lose his mind. So we had to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, well, kudos for who came up with that.
Well,
That's a
was
brilliant idea.
we stole that. We stole that from Robin Hood in Toronto, the Grossingers. So I'll give them credit where credit is due.
They get a lot of transportation kudos.
Sure do.
The Robin Hood folks. So these joblets are not only important for efficiencies, but they're also important when you need to push, when you get this amazing applicant that you want to get, and your base salary is not necessarily enough, right? So you can sort of push them over the fence and say, I know how you can make another $500, right?
Exactly, and that's what we give. That number is what we give for some of these jobs where we have a great person and we just want to give them a little bit extra.
Right. Because, as I was having this discussion with my new staffing coordinator, I was like, listen, we're a communist country in the summer, right? Like we have like people come in at different places and they all talk to each other. So we can't screw that up. So like the company line is extra pay for extra work, right? So we'll come up with a joblet for you, right? And there are so many little things that can be done that will loosen the load on the people who already have exceeded their bandwidth, right?
Yeah, and it's a way to provide people with leadership opportunities as well. I mean, we have, I'm thinking at our pools, like we have a joblet that we call a pool captain, and these are like 21-year-old lifeguards, which are very hard to keep. And we call them a pool captain, and we give them additional responsibilities that are very meaningful for them and give them the opportunity to show us what they could do if they come back as 22 or 23-year-olds. So it's not just about the money, but it's also about the opportunity to show off a little bit, to have a little bit of prestige, maybe have a walkie-talkie at a certain time of the day. Those are all important things for people.
Yeah, well, this is something that my son talks about all the time in that we have a problem in camps generally where, especially established places like Ramaquois, where you have the frontline people and then you have the administration. And at a place like, where they have guys who look pretty young but have been there for 40 years, it's hard to break into that next level. And those people in their early 20s who are awesome that you want to keep, it's hard to, like, you need to be intentional and create levels or joblets or whatever, whether it's head lifeguards and you have a lot, or you just create different names for them, like the military, or, we've talked about in other episodes that I have peer leaders that are they're my orientation leaders. And that's like a big thing I think, Matt, I think you were actually on that when we were talking about that kind of thing, like a middle of the road, like before they get to leadership team kind of thing, because a lot of the leadership people, they just don't leave, plain and simple. And if you're looking for someone to be in charge of your second graders, right, you're looking for a high-powered, experienced teacher for them, not this 22-year-old who's been doing a great job, but it's just not there yet. So I think that's the leadership opportunities is the key.
And
That-
that's another way to think about efficiency, right? It's not just minimizing staff that you need, it's also maximizing staff's ability. And we're like you alluded to, Andy, we are exactly in that position that Justin was talking about, where we have probably 40 people on staff between the ages of 21 and 25 that feel like they're ready for a true leadership opportunity, and probably are in most cases, and we just don't have a place for them. And we're really working very hard to give as many of those people those leadership opportunities. And we're committed to it. We've actually taken a big focus on it in our organization, because that's our future. And if you can keep those people, those 40 people make your camp so much better in the long run. And if you don't give them those opportunities, everyone here knows they're going to go somewhere else, because someone else is going to give them those opportunities.
And Justin's other cautionary tale is that we not burn them out with any credit. So giving them titles and giving them, a set leadership opportunity instead of just using them are good people like we used to do, or a lot of us maybe still do. So I always think of Justin when I feel like I'm overusing somebody without giving them credit.
Yeah, it's all about appreciation. All right, we're going to take a quick pause before we talk to Thomas about this kind of thing. We got to give a shout out to our friends at AM Skyer Insurance, ladies and gentlemen, the leading insurance and strategic partner for many of the finest camps in America. AM Skyer partners with camps to provide public relations, legal, medical, behavior support, and more. We're heading off to Tri-State next week. And at the Voce section, is the first one is going to be someone is giving a couple sessions, a woman who is an employment lawyer that Skyer now has as part of their team. And gosh, in this day and age, like, those people are just golden. We all think we know what HR is. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot that exceeds us. And when you have as many staff as they do at Ramaquois, Lord knows, you guys somebody should probably just get an HR degree for 550 staff, for God's sakes. So yeah, whether it's that or, they have doctors on their staff now. They have their public relations guy is going to be there, which is always great if you need to communicate with the press. So I can't say enough about our friends at AM Skyer. Check out the AM Skyer difference and learn more at amskyer.com. All right, we are going out to the Hamptons now.
Bring your sunscreen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, get ready to sit in a lot of traffic, but all right, we're here. We'll get there. There we go. So what do you think of, Tom, in regards to these kind of like in-betweener kind of jobs?
Yeah, so efficiency is key for us. And, as I mentioned before, finding staff in general is very difficult. So we do like to maximize the staff that we have on staff. We are not like Matt. Unfortunately, we don't have 90 lifeguards. We hire to work at our 3 outdoor pools. We have maybe 12 swim instructors that we house from the UK, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. They're all qualified swim instructors in their own country. We, of course, have an aquatics director, an assistant aquatics director who have the certifications and qualifications that we need in New York State. But we do find it very, very difficult to find local lifeguards. So one of the things that we have sort of done, definitely since the pandemic, I think we started just a little bit before, we realized that if we wanted our swim program to be the best that it could be, and we wanted our campers to have the face time with the people that actually knew how to teach swim, that we had to find a way to get additional lifeguards. And we struggled with finding locals. We didn't want to hire additional internationals and house them just for lifeguard positions. So we actually now created a role called a counselor guard, And we will probably train maybe close to 30 counselor guards over the course of orientation, in addition to the swim instructors. New York is one of those lovely states that only accepts American Red Cross and certifications that they've sort of certified themselves. So we'll have our 12 swim instructors. We'll train them to be American Red Cross. When your kids go to swim and for a swim lesson, they will be in the water teaching swim. And then we aim for one counselor per group, that when your group is then at the pool for swim instruction, you are then standing on deck lifeguarding. And obviously you need to be certified to do that. So we do that during orientation. We then say in the afternoon, when it is free swim for you, you get the ability to go into the pool, and our 12 staff that are swim instructors and lifeguards then take over. So we found that gives us a great deal of flexibility. We even have a couple of groups, I'm sure Matt does as well, but our program begins at 2 years old. So we have campers who are 24 months old running around camp. Some of them can't run, but some of them can very well. But our youngest groups, they end at 12:30, so they arrive at 9 and they end at 12:30. So we will also utilize those, what we call mini day counselors, who are working with kids for the morning. We utilize them in areas in the afternoon. So this year, for example, I have 2 staff who are swim instructors, and they're going to then work at the pool in the afternoon and pick up some swim lessons. We have a girl who is a former gymnast in the UK. She's going to go and help in our gymnastics department. We have a dance girl who was very interested in teaching dance, but we'd already hired for the position. So she's going to work as a mini day counselor and then transition and assist with dance in the afternoon. So for us, with those limited number of housing spots we have, we really try and sort of squeeze every ounce of skills, experience, anything that we can think of to help those counselors come over and to help them thrive during the summer. And we often find that when they're working with the kids in the morning, it's sort of a reprieve in the afternoon, and they get to go and try something else. So they really get the best
they
of
were
both
working
worlds.
with 2-year-olds. Absolutely. That reprieve,
which is easily the hardest job on camp. The hardest job on camp, even for 3.5 hours.
That's unbelievably awesome.
Yeah.
Do you guys do buses at Southampton?
We do. Yep. So we have bus counselors, again, to get some staff to reattend camp. We pay bus counselors. We have a separate pay for housed bus counselors versus local bus counselors. We pay local bus counselors more money. That helps them return. Obviously, they tend to be a little bit more money centric than the international staff, but we have at least 2 bus counselors on the bus every day. We have a number of bus riders as our staff gets younger and younger that need lifts to and from camp. But we have at least 2 staff members on the bus that are sort of in contact with us on a text basis.
Are there 2-year-olds going into car seats on buses?
Yes, there are. Yes.
Wow.
Admittedly, not as many as the older kids. We tend to find that the majority we're about a 90% busing rate currently. Majority of those 10% that don't take the bus are 2 years old, 2 and 3. But we do find if those 2-year-olds have older siblings, then yes, they will get on the bus. And look, it also is a pickup parental thing as well, because if you can put your child on the bus in the morning, we don't offer a bus home at 12:30, so you have to come and pick them up anyway. So it cuts down your time in traffic by 50% every single day. And over the course of a 10-week season, that's a lot of driving.
When I first got to North Shore, we did busing at 12:30 with this mini day, and that was brutal, just absolutely brutal. And then because they barely make it back for the regular runs in the afternoon. Very interesting.
I mean, we'll have 8 and 9-year-olds that fall asleep on the buses on the way home, and the parents are obviously not thrilled about that. But I can't imagine what it would be like putting the 2-year-olds on the bus.
Yeah, this reminds me of when I first got into camping. I was talking to Mike Colchin at Ramaquois, and he was very good at, you could hire a bus company and use their drivers, but it costs a lot more than just leasing the buses and hiring your own drivers. So when you hire your own drivers and you have these bus drivers, right, how can you utilize them during the day, theoretically? And, you know, he had this long list of duties, you know, not to mention like gassing the buses and things like that. But, you know, some of these people could play sports. Some of these people could do maintenance. Some of these people could work in food service and various things like that. And, yeah, that was like one of my introduction to cost savings, because, you know, like I said, when I started my own camp and I didn't have any money, um, I didn't want to do the traditional Northeast thing, which is, I mean, Matt, do you guys train CDL drivers? I mean, you must, for 90 buses. I mean, that's a
No,
job.
no,
Jesus,
we
yeah.
don't.
But you probably did it one time, right?
No,
When
we always use the drivers
you
from the
did,
bus companies, but we like to have some drivers on the campgrounds just in case of emergencies. So
sure.
they work on our maintenance team. We've had basketball specialists. We've had all sorts of, everything you mentioned. It's a great way for the bus drivers to make a little bit of extra money. And it's a great way to get your best drivers to come back year after year, which is very important.
Yeah. We have a hard time every year finding female maintenance staff to be able to service the female bathrooms. And we've been very fortunate that we convinced somebody from the food service, a woman, to stay for the rest of the day and put in 3 hours and help us with that. Because we couldn't find a full-time female maintenance person. So yeah, I think it's so helpful to be creative with this kind of thing.
That's great. I mean, we formerly had a bus driver that drove our camp train. So we have a little camp train that none of the leadership staff at camp love to drive because it's hot, it's dusty. But yeah, we used to have a driver that we would pay in between bus runs to sit there and drive the train. But I love that idea about a female maintenance, and trying to find bus drivers to do that. We've never really had a huge uptake of drivers wanting to work during the day. A number of our longtime bus drivers, you know, obviously in the Hamptons, they'll do their run, they'll go and park by the beach and they sit there. And one in particular who has been with us for the last 11 years, TJ, I'll give him a nice little shout out here. He always tells me he takes a cigar and a book and he sits on the beach and he waits until he's due back at camp. He comes back to camp and then he does the same thing the next day. And he loves it. Absolutely loves it.
We have probably about 80% of our parents drop off and pick up. The other 20% are in before and after care. But at noon, we're going from our main beach back to their home sites. So at noon, I have 8 buses from the school district that have to transport them. And every field trip on Thursdays, then we have buses from the school district. The only problem with that is they're unionized. And so used to be you would get these 8 drivers all summer long. Now every single route has to be bid out. So we get different drivers every single day for every single trip, which has been challenging, but you don't have as much control as you'd like.
Right. All right, we're going to talk about activity leaders in a second, but first I have to give a shout out to commercial recreation specialists, ladies and gents. CRS. That is right. We'll be seeing Rich Wills and his inflatables and his lightning detectors and all his crazy bunch of stuff in a couple of days at Tri-State. One of the things that I bought from them that I believe in heavily, because at my camp we do not have a full sound system. I cannot call Thomas Coffey to the office. Thomas Coffey, I can't do that. You know, yes, we have walkie-talkies and all. But when we want to do lost camper drills and you know, things like that, let's just say, they have an alert system that goes on a pavilion in the middle of our facility that goes, it sprays sound in 4 directions. It has 4 different sirens. It's super loud, and it activates from my office. So I have a little switch there, which is really nice, and it gets everybody to come do the lost camper drill and all. And if it was a real deal and we had to do stuff worse, it would make other sounds as well. So I highly suggest you looking into that, the emergency alert system, commercial recreation specialists. You could check them out at crs4rec.com. CRS is serious about fun. All right. So I'm curious, the concept of hiring what I call Swiss Army knives at your camp that are able to do multifaceted things. Um, my specialty areas, and I have a lot of specialty areas at my camp. I don't hire that many people that are tied to one thing. Maybe half of them are tied to one thing, and the other half, I want the flexibility for them to do other things. Certainly my sports specialists, right? Certainly my art specialists. Um, it just gives me that kind of flexibility. And sometimes it's a little harder to hire them because it's open-ended. And teachers tend to like, what am I doing? Give me my thing and I'll follow it. But I just think it's really important, especially in a camp like mine where it's elective based, and I don't even know. I couldn't tell you what the schedule is going to be week 2 because the kids haven't chosen it yet. So that gives me some flexibility. So I'm curious if you guys do stuff like that.
So at Ramaquois, Andy, we're probably the opposite of you in that we do very, very few electives. So I can tell you exactly where each group is going to be on August 2nd, second period right now. So I think we have a similar philosophy in that we want people to have the mindset that they can help wherever they're needed, because that's what you have to do at camp. So we've done something similar with our athletic specialists. We used to hire a person, and that person's job was to be on field 3 all day, right? Field 3. If there's a group coming for kickball, that's what you're doing. If they're coming for softball, if they're coming for football, that's what you're doing. And now we hire field specialists or athletic specialists, and we elevated one person whose job it is to actually assign those people throughout each day to go and cover the areas that need to be covered. And that's a lot more cost effective for us to have that one person who can take the 12 to 15 athletic specialists and have them cover the areas that need to be covered, as opposed to hiring like 20 to 22 of those types of people. We also, in our craft areas, the past few years, there's a lot of absences, right? It used to be that nobody ever missed a day of camp. You just couldn't miss a day of camp. And now people miss days of camp. So we do hire one person who is essentially a floater specialist who can cover all of the craft areas if need be, and can also cover some of the less technical, what we call cultural activities. So like an activity like chess, an activity like nature might be a little bit more difficult because there's animals involved, or certainly fencing. They couldn't cover fencing, but having that one person that's a little bit more flexible has allowed us to keep activities open. And the other thing that we've done the past few years is we have a lot of different age groups at camp. We have campers from 3 to 15. So we have some programs that are really just for 12 to 15-year-olds, and they don't get enough groups to justify a full activity specialist. And we also have activities that are just for 4 and 5-year-olds and they don't have enough groups to cover a full specialist. So we've been able to take about 5 of our activities, or really 10 of our activities, and cover them with 5 specialists. So we have a basketball program for just our 4 and 5-year-olds. And we have a Newcomb program, a volleyball program for our 4 and 5-year-olds. And that's covered by one person who just shifts back and forth, and we schedule it in a certain way so they're able to go to the 2 different areas. So we've been able to do that for a handful of activities, which saves us 5 staff members, which is, every little bit counts.
That could be $20,000 these days. I mean, seriously.
It's
Right?
probably more than that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and for a lot of our camps, we do camper exchanges for these adult specialists. So for every camper you're taking on an exchange, that's revenue that you can't bring in, especially these days when camp seems to be so highly desired by
Right.
families.
Right. Yeah, I've taken a lot of that approach too, Matt. I have and I got this from Harbor Hills back in the day when I was with Skip, having specialists there just for preschoolers. I think that's really important because they just know them better. There's no doubt about it. But in the realm of extra staff, right? Like, what do you call them? Floaters, whatever you want to call them. We now call them our SWAT team. But I now have frontline SWAT team people. I have like specialist SWAT team people that could fill in at activity areas. And I even have some middle people that could potentially jump in if like a division leader was out. you know, an experienced person who has other duties as well. Because like you said, we just, as much as we want everybody here for the full camp season, you know, we just have to anticipate, you know, the reality.
And it's so hard to gauge because you don't want to hire more than you need.
No.
But on the other hand, having to shut down an area or two every day causes a lot of chaos.
Right. And to use a word, Thomas, that got used a lot when I was with Jay Jacobs, that I use all the time now, attrition. So when you have people that are out and you're not paying them for that day, well, you sort of have that money, you know, you might as well allocate it towards, you know, not canceling nature, as you were talking about with the animals, right? Because I hear what you're saying, and with that in mind, like I want to train as many archery people as possible. I want to train as many ropes people as possible. Like I don't want those areas not running because somebody got sick or hurt or whatever, or quit or got fired or whatever the variable is. You know, I want to have that back.
And over hiring in the
background.
beginning, you know you're going to lose some due to a million different reasons before you're halfway through the summer. So if you start off overstaffed, you usually end up just fine partway through.
Yeah. I just have to say, I mean, I don't know, you know, I'm sure Matt's thinking the same thing, but like for someone like Sam that has to run on a shoestring budget, right? With tuitions that could be 1/3 of what of Matt's camp's charging, you know, that pays people $15 an hour, you know, to run. I mean, because most municipalities pay minimum wage. Like that's a municipality thing, right? Like we lose staff to municipalities because of pay. Like it really is unbelievable how you guys can do it, how you guys can make it work, and it is super admirable. And yeah, frankly, I don't know how you do it. And by the way, I just want to say that I was throwing shade at like the 100 lifeguards thing. If I had 9 pools and a lake the size of Ramaquois Lake, I think I'd have 90 lifeguards too. So I just got to say that publicly, all right, Matt? They got a big lake, right? It's not just a little lake.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. 9 pools, for goodness sakes. Any last thoughts? Anybody doing anything else efficiency wise? We want to get in here.
The only thing I wanted to mention, because I don't know if it's really under efficiency, but it's something that has been so successful for us with our specialty team. We do have a lot of activities. We have, I think, 63 different program areas. What we've done is we've divided those up into families. And we have like 5 different specialty families, and each one has a specialty leader. And their job, among many other things, is to create a sense of family and camaraderie with those specialists. And since we went to that model, we've had much, much higher staff retention in our specialty staff. So it's a different way to think about efficiency. But if you're not going out and trying to hire new people every year, you're getting the same people back, less time and resources on training and ordering and everything with regard to setup. It's been extremely successful for us.
So that's really interesting. So the benefits there, you're saying, are of course ordering supplies and stuff like that and being efficient on that, because that's a huge thing, because
Huge.
new people will absolutely overorder, right? Which is, you know, and a lot of this stuff, it's not going to make it to the next year either, right? But what about the relationships also with the people in their family unit? Like, is that something too?
Yeah, I mean, that's why they come back, right? We know that
Right.
about camp. You don't come back because you loved playing basketball. You come back because of the friendships you make and the people and the stories, the jokes that you tell with them. So, you know, we've got a crew down by our nature area that does nature and science and orienteering and fire building, and they love each other. They hang out all the time. They cover for each other, and they're always laughing. Right. And when I see staff members laughing with each other, I know there's a pretty good shot they're going to come back the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I love the name Joblets, Matt. I may have to take that one. But
It's like Snigless. I love it.
we have a number of joblets sort of outside of camp hours. You know, first of all, we have a working tennis club on the property. We actually subcontract the running of that tennis club out to a national tennis company. They find it very difficult to find or schedule people to do the court maintenance. So we're in the Hamptons, we are clay courts. The pros sort of have a limit to the number of hours they can work a week. So we often find that the tennis club will hire some of our staff predominantly male staff who were interested in lugging clay around and sweeping clay and things like that in the mornings before camp. We found that the staff are keen on that guaranteed money. Obviously, the Hamptons babysitting and tipping is a huge way of life, but I think a lot of our staff would appreciate the guaranteed money that would bring in. You know, they'll go and sweep the courts and maintain the courts for an hour every morning, Monday through Friday. They get to keep their weekends, and it brings them in a guaranteed salary. We have something called Cool Kids Club, formerly the Babysitting Club. So we have a number of leadership staff with kids on staff. We obviously have a leadership meeting early in the morning, so we hire babysitters or people to supervise the kids, take them to breakfast in the morning. That's an extra 45 minutes to an hour. And again, I think people appreciate the sort of the guaranteed money. And then we have some of the not nice jobs at the end of the camp day. You know, it's difficult to keep maintenance staff at camp between 7 in the morning and 5 o'clock at night. But, you know, being that sort of day camp sleepaway hybrid, we provide an evening meal for our house staff between 5 and 6. And again, similarly with maintenance staff, it's difficult to keep our kitchen staff there, even if we do a shift kind of work, because a lot of our kitchen staff work in school, so they're used to those early mornings and ending in early afternoon. We post jobs for our staff, and we have males and female counselors who we pay them an hourly wage to clean up the dining hall and wash the dishes after the staff have finished the food. We pay staff to clean bathrooms, because some of our bathroom stalls at camp, you know, all of our accommodations have bathrooms in them, but you know, when you're sharing and living in close proximity, sometimes you want a little bit of privacy. So,
well, by the way, this is all stuff that you've taken from sleepaway camp too, to a day camp setting.
100%. You know,
Because I don't think day camp people
bathrooms open
think like
and staff use them. So we pay other staff to clean them at certain time points in the evening, first thing in the morning. So there are lots of jobs to go around, and the staff really appreciate that guaranteed money, especially when it is on a camp schedule, Monday through Friday. They get those evenings and weekends off that they've grown accustomed to.
Yeah, we have the weekend work at our place too with our picnics, and the bigger thing, we have a very big before and after care. We have an exit off the interstate right next to our camp, so we have a lot of people that drop their kids off and pick them up. Matt, we only have 28 buses, and so do you remember when we visited that Camp Champions that time, and they were talking about how their bus pickup right on the street? So we have that whole kind of thing going, and I don't staff my before and after care kind of programs, and I do one called combo care, which is they come in at like 7:45 and leave at 5:15. So it's like it's early and late, but it's not hardcore early and hardcore late. That's a big one. So when I hire my staff, one of the questions in CampMinder when they're filling out their paperwork is like, would you be interested in doing this kind of work, right? And they fill it out and all. I don't promise any of that stuff until about a month before camp starts, because I'm waiting for all those people who need the extra money in order to work here to give that to them, you know, first and foremost. And then, you know, also returning people, because I want to make sure that it's actually done well also. But that's sort of like my ace in the hole of extra money, because it's substantial now. With minimum wage now, I'm paying those people $800, $900. You know, it's a lot of money. Sam, I want to give you got to take the last word. You're the municipality. You're the one rubbing nickels together.
Well, the thing I'm most excited about right now is I switched my medical forms software, and now for sign in and out at arrivals, we'll have tablets, and each parent will have their own QR code. And there'll be the little signs we give them to put in their car window. They can just grab their sign with their code, swipe it on the thing, and not have to sign in every day or to sign out. So I'm hoping we have some construction happening this summer, so it's going to be even tighter to get them in and out. So I'm hoping that'll speed it up. But that's not a staff thing. It's just the thing I'm most excited about today. So
well, it's an efficiency. Look, right there is a microcosm how AI is going to help reduce jobs at our camps, right?
Yep. Well, the counselors will still be taking them in and out while the camp director or assistant director will be running down with the
It's
tablet.
true, but the person that's, you know, the person that's meeting and greeting everybody can have a lot less pressure and stress upon them, right? Which
Absolutely.
that's a huge job. It's one of the jobs I'm trying to fill right now. Is like my afternoon security person. It is one of the hardest jobs ever. you know, with the buses coming in, and people picking up their kids early and all that kind of thing. What a headache. I wouldn't want that job.
Yeah.
So, if you guys know anybody, send them my way, Liberty Lake Day Camp. All right. I want to thank Thomas Coffey, Matt Kaufman. Thanks, guys, for sharing some time with us before you head off to Atlantic City. All right. And hopefully you don't get too many emails in the next week. You know, you come back on Friday, a week from today, and not have a nervous breakdown. I want to thank the Go Camp Pro team, AM Skyer, commercial recreation specialist, for allowing us to bring this podcast to you. If you like what you hear, you should subscribe to the Day Camp Pod on your favorite podcast platform. And check out our show notes from all our episodes at daycamppodcast.com, as well as contact information for the show, for Thomas, for Matt, and for me and my co-host, Sam Thompson. Thanks for listening and making yourself a better Day Camp Pro. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode of the Day Camp Pod.